we're dealing with a world war where there was unrestricted submarine attacks upon ships. And especially in the Mediterranean, you had heavy fighting. And yet Onassis was able to sail his ships to anywhere he wanted them. And both sides left his ships untouched. Neither side even attacked. They were never even attacked. And yet all the other Greek ships, and there was, according to one statement, there were 450 Greek merchant ships. Essentially, all of those Greek merchant ships were sunk during the war, except for Ephesus. And he, on the other side of the coin, his weren't even attacked. And that takes collaboration at the highest levels.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I'm not the only person to point out how there were certain things that were off limits. You know, when I was on Alex Jones' show, he was talking about how people had told him that were eyewitnesses about how the Ford plants over there in Germany that were producing war materials for Germany were off limits to their bombers. There have always been certain targets that have been off limits. In the War of 1812, Astor was allowed to trade with the British and became incredibly rich because the U.S. government turned a blind eye, or not only turned a blind eye, but they gave them special permission to trade with the enemy. And yet places like Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, the New England states during the War of 1812 went into a depression because their fleets were not allowed to trade or sail. And but here's Astor and part of the Illuminati, and he's allowed to trade with the enemy.
Let's speak of Astor for a minute, Fritz. I have information from my research, and again, this is one of the things that makes that belief system of something that's so well inbred in people, it's very hard to believe for a lot of folks, is that the sinking of the Titanic had to do with the Federal Reserve and getting rid of the head of the Astor family because they were against the world government and moving towards the New World Order. Do you have any clarification on this? Because I have some evidence that suggests that that might have been a Mason, that they were Masons, and the one that actually steered the ship lived, and he was a Mason. Do you have any information on that? Since we're talking about the Astors.
I know that Colonel Jack Astor, I mentioned about him in the book. Here he is, bloodline Illuminati and a major financial kingpin. He could have muscled his way into one of the lifeboats, but he allowed other people to go before him and went down with the ship, which was admirable. And I guess that's one of the things that I might point out is that people born in these Illuminati families are not just pure evil. There's a lot of positive traits in them, just like everybody else. And as far as what you're saying, that it was planned, that's totally new to me.
Yeah, see, again, I cannot clarify. That's why it's just some research that I've uncovered. I don't know if it's disinformation, which you know there's a ton of that. Because it is sort of hard to believe.
Well, Fritz, I also noticed you made a good point in one of your interviews you've done in the past, that almost every war, it starts with with a ship being attacked. If you remember talking about that?
Right.
Well, I was going to say, right now with Iran, I kind of see like what you were talking about. We could probably get ready in Iran where there'll probably be a ship attacked, and maybe that might start the next war, which goes along with what I've seen you say in the past, where every war seems to have a ship going down. I don't know what the symbolism is for that. If you could maybe explain.
You kind of got broken up on your question, but I think you were asking me to explain about this pattern that they use ships to get the United States into war.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a convenient thing to do, and you notice that they're still kind of doing it in a way when American ships are like over there at Yemen. Then what was it? An American destroyer was severely damaged by bombs when it was over there in Yemen. So they're still doing it to jerk the cord, public sentiment. There's other ways to do it, but that seems to be a very convenient way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else would be worthwhile to say on that lines.
Yep.
Two things I'd like to move towards. Like, let's talk about what you were saying, like World War II and the lead towards the world government after, and the plans from this federal, basically the last 100 years, and how now we're moving into the end game stages here. Could you speak to your feelings on what's happened since the United Nations started world peace?
World peace, huh?
Yeah. Love bombs, Mr. Springmeyer.
Wow. Well, it's like this Orwellian world where war is peace. We have all these peacekeepers going out and fighting. I don't know that the United Nations has brought much peace to the world. And there's been a lot of scandals wherever the United Nations peacekeeper troops have been. There's been all kinds of outrageous atrocities and things that have been done. So much for the peacekeepers. Again, it's that how you send out troops and call them peacekeepers. This is Orwellian newspeak where freedom is slavery and ignorance is strength. It's a double-think, and they call tyranny now security of this country.
Right, and people don't get this mind control. We were talking about this, that's a few minutes ago, that the people are under this mind control. We didn't really get to that root of that problem. Is how can we wake these people up? Because now, obviously, all of these, the world government that 25 years ago, if you said that, like with Tom Braden and Larry P. McDonald calling the Rockefellers controlling the Council on Foreign Relations and basically setting up a world government asinine, to now we know there's a world government. Agenda 21 is in place. They're already, the North American Union. It's there. It's just not been really. It's just under the surface. How can we get these folks to understand? What can
Well, it's really the mind control. How do we get people
out
of
this
mind control?
Yeah, because that's your success with getting people that were literally used by the Illuminati and by the governments to be sex slaves and to be Manchurian candidates and things. So please, I mean, what is your insight on that?
Well, people that have been in Illuminati are rather easy to tell about these things. They, on some level, know that they're true already. But for the common person that's just in a state of denial that just wants to have everything nice and fluffy and doesn't want his world rocked by the truth, he doesn't want reality to intrude upon his nice life. What you have is actually a spiritual problem. The person has to love truth. And how do you get somebody to love truth? Well, that's a spiritual issue. And when you can spiritually reach their heart, like a conversion, if somebody converts to Christ and they're really sincere, they get the Spirit of Christ in them. The Spirit of Christ is the Spirit of truth. And because they love Christ and they love His Spirit, and they love truth, then they're going to want the truth. And when people love the truth and they want the truth, they'll find out all this stuff very quickly on their own. There are a lot of things out there, and you probably can testify to the same thing. Your gut told you that there was something wrong here, or this person was doing this or something, and at first you didn't have all the details. You just had this feeling, this sense of it, and then later you had those, you had that sense of truth confirmed by the facts. But when somebody comes and loves the truth, immediately they're going to start. They're going to have an awareness that they may not have all the facts, but they're going to have an awareness in the right direction, and the spirit of truth is going to lead them into all truth. So it's really ultimately, with most people, the battle is a spiritual battle, and their heart has to get right, and they have to love Christ, they have to love the truth. And when they love that spirit, then they're going to find out a lot of this on their own.
I agree. I mean, you have to really understand the truth. I mean, we live in such a deceptive world, Fritz. I mean, everything is a deception. I mean, like if you're not feeling well, you call out, but you're really sad. You call in sick, but you're not really sick. I mean, we live in a world of deception. Even when you're doing things that are like like a white lie or whatever you want to call these things. Instead of we've gotten to be a society where there's no ownership. There's no, I hate to get into these philosophers, but the idea of freedom and responsibility. I mean, if you're going to do something, you got to be responsible for it, no matter what the cost. We don't have that. We'll do whatever we want, and if we get caught, we'll try to figure out a way out of it. And this is a societal problem, and this is what these criminals who hijacked our government, that's what they figure. Paulson and Bernanke and all of these people at the Federal Reserve lying, saying we don't know where the money went, or I don't know, or they're just criminals, and they've just embraced this evil. They've embraced deceiving the people for obvious financial gain. I mean, what else could there be for them, except being part of the order?
Yes, we have a serious problem with honesty out there. Evil contains the seed of its own destruction. It's like in the Soviet Union. Their leadership were into deception, and that filtered down to the common people to the point that let's say you were a policeman, well, you might be in on the take, so society starts collapsing, and the evil system collapses in on itself when nobody trusts each other any longer. Because the foundation of human communication is trust. And we're having that foundation seriously undermined in this country. For the system to continue, there has to be some level of trust. And as that trust is destroyed, society is going to increasingly have more problems.
Like if you see something, say something.
Is also going to have more problems.
Well, I'd like to take a second. I feel like grilling you for a little while. I'd like to take a second to thank you again, Fritz, and let you know that there's a lot of people that have been waking up. There is like a awakening being felt around, and we are changed. And a lot of us, we are, like what you're saying, people that love truth. A lot of us are all, look up to you and people like you, and where these truth is that would, want to be here to support you and this whole movement. And I'm sure We Are Changes, which is everywhere in other countries, should all step up and do anything they can to help you, Fritz. And we'd also like to allow, We Are Change members or anybody listening, if you'd like to call, it's 860-866-4344, and you could talk to the Portland Trailblazer, Fritz Sprigmeyer.
All right. And, as we're talking about this, Fritz, like this police state that's rising,